Check. All right, hello. I'm just going to make a brief announcement. We're going to get started with like presentations. We're actually going to start with Bryan, who's doing the lasers right now at like around 8. But if you guys want to grab maybe like a drink or something, we've got a cooler back there that was just stocked. We don't have too many tonight, but maybe one for everyone. And yeah, welcome, and we'll get started around 8. Thanks for coming out.
Hello? Hello everyone, my name is Bryan. I'm the one who did the laser installation you guys saw earlier. Thank you. Sorry if my back's on you a little bit, I have to, when I'm explaining this, but a lot of you guys were playing with the Pong game that you guys saw, and I'm gonna quickly run through that. So, we of course use Torrens, let me shut this off. We use Torrens media pipe, thank you Torren. And then use the pinch of your left hand's tracking to spin the circle around. And here, all the viewers are off. But yeah, so what we did is we used a bullet solver, and all I did was create 3 actors, each one being part of the circle. And you give them each like an infinite mass so they don't move with the gravity like the ball was doing. Okay. But yeah, so we have the ball bouncing around. You give it some physics. I forget what that one is called. Here we go. So you give each one a restitution, 1.3, so it allow it to like bounce off, give it some velocity, and once it does that, now it bounces off each wall of the box with some force. And sorry, it's a little messy. I kind of made this yesterday, but yeah. So it's nothing too crazy from what you saw. It is all tops basically. Then I kind of transported it into a SOP using a trace, which is right here. So like y'all saw, that's the game. And then you trace it onto a SOP form and then just send it to the laser. The laser is a chop. Here you are. But yeah, it's not too crazy. You basically just, like I said, bullet solver, add all the physics to it. And once you do that and you give each of the circles, like I said, the restitution, and the ball bounces off of it. And then I'll show you a few other things I was doing. Yeah. So I was also had some pads that you guys saw as well. Yeah, here we go. So I showed this for a little bit. It's basically some rectangles bouncing around randomly. So I added, first time doing it, a script SOP, and basically just randomly generating the rectangles in a confined space. What did I do? Between negative 0.7 and 0.7 so that they didn't go off. And then you kind of change it to a SOP or a chop. And then you send that chop to the laser and then map it, which is a little bit of the difficult part. I'll go back to the bullet solver real quick because that is another tricky part to this, is mapping it to some sort of effect. I'm sure a lot of you saw that as well, but yeah, it adds a fun little trail effect when you have the laser on top of something like this. But yeah, it gets a little tricky because you have to work with like double distortion. But yeah, I just wanted to give a quick rundown of what you guys saw. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah. Sorry, one more time? So, how is keeping score of that? So basically, you can add a bullet solver chop, and that will count the collisions. So I had each carve for the circles count the collisions, and then that was a score. And then the high score, I had a chop execute. If the score is higher than that value, then replace it with that one. Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah. What's that process like? It depends. I had to rush it a little bit here today because I didn't have too much time. But like I said, you're dealing with double distortion, so you'll map the projector and then you'll map the laser with it, and it'll look good in the center. But typically, it'll slowly move away from each other to the sides. So I use a mixture of like a stoner and warp it very minorly. I mean, your best bet is to get it as close as possible. Like the laser on top of the projector, that's when it gets a little bit easier. But yeah, when you're dealing with like the laser being somewhere and then the projector's over there, you have to, it gets difficult. But yeah, luckily I was able to get it close enough today. And but yeah, if you keep everything honestly in the center and you don't have time to map it, it typically will still look good. But yeah, since I don't have time to map it, if it went to the sides, it really separates from each other. So that process can be pretty tedious. But yeah.
When could you real quick just go to the are you sending out through one laser chop?
Yes.
Just show us that laser chop. Yeah. It's a kind of new operator, I think. I mean.
Yeah, I think it used to be the ether dream, and there also was a Helios, but now it's just a laser.
They wrapped everything into this nice one laser chop, which.
So yeah, I use.
Basically makes lasers and TD possible.
Yeah. So there's two laser chops I use. The first one is it's just called laser. And this is where kind of all the parameters go to for the stop or chop you're sending it, so you can switch them here. And then you have to see like the max sample rate of your laser. Mine's 30. You can do the scaling here. You can do the step size. You can do the colors here. And then you send it over here to the, which sends it to the Ether Dream. I'm using an Ether Dream 4. So you have to make the Ether Dream 4, it's seen as like a hard drive basically, and you have to match like the gateway, which took me way too long to figure out. And yeah, so once you get the matching gateway, then they finally connect, and yeah, it works right away.
Just sending lasers through your hard drive.
Yeah,
Easy,
basically.
It's easy, simple. But yeah, we got one more question.
Yeah, what's up?
Right here.
So last minute, I mean, this might be it. It might not. Last minute, I added some sort of flicker when it hits a wall to add some sort of fun effect. But if there was actually a flicker, I was dealing with it before everyone got here, is if the points get to a certain level, it really starts flickering. So if you're, if you saw the abstract stuff I was doing, they all have to be at low points. If one of them is high, then and they're all connected, then the laser will read all of those as 1,000 points when a lot of them are 200. So I don't know if it gets better with a nicer laser, but my laser in touch kind of maxes out with 400 points. And then when you get to like SOPs and yeah, then you have to worry about the points, the polygons and all that. And that's why the Pong game was a little bit like gooey, because I had to turn down the resolution to like 256. I originally had it at 1080, then tried 512, and it was like very flickering, and switched it down to 256. So, anyone else?
I got.
Oh. So I did a few different techniques. The one technique I did for the game was just a trace. So the top I was using, I brought it down to 256, and yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We got one more quick little thing up here from Tech Booth. Just want to say happy birthday, Bryan. Do a little woo-woo.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Bryan.
Did you have one?
Bryan, what's your last name?
Snigur. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, switch it back and we'll turn the music back up, maybe?
On the walls. So the ball was a static mass, which is it's a mass you can change, versus the walls were an infinite mass. So they're not affected by any of the physics or bounces or velocity, whatever I'll add to that ball, because I just wanted to change the ball. So I keep messing up the name, but it's like restitution or restoration, something like that. It's in the bullet solver, and the more you increase it, the more it'll bounce off the walls. So I had it like at 2, and I also had something in the script where after every hit, it would increase a little bit the velocity. Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Sick. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it was really cool to see this behind the scenes. Okay. It was really cool to see behind the scenes. Okay. That was awesome. Yeah. I wish I were prepared for the talk. No, it's okay. But I feel like you guys, people like that would come up and like
People were actually loving it.
yeah. That was super cool.
I was just so worried about the game at first. When I first put it on, it just looks so good.
It looks cool. Yeah. It really, and also like it's rare to have like a mapping like that.
Yeah.
Tried enough to find all this quiet solitude.
long as you, send your TD output, and then. Did you make this? Okay.
There's two though. There's one right here.
相机是不是自己关了？你相机是不是自己关了？啊？哦。我不知道为什么这个紫光灯照着我就会想打哈欠。这是什么？哦，你放心，没事儿。我就是觉得好笑，一些奇怪的身体反应。
Hello, welcome back everyone. So, next up, I'm super excited to introduce Runyu and Yiou here. And they're going to be doing kind of a behind the scenes of a performance that they've been working on, and also a little deep dive into some of the TouchDesigner process. So please give them a huge round of applause.
Thank you, Torin, for the invitation. And my name is Yiou, and
Hi, I'm Runyu.
And I am a new media artist and creative technologist. And Runyu is a fusion singer-songwriter. Do you want to say something?
Hi, I have this mask on. My name is Runyu, that's Runyu, and I'm a singer-songwriter and I'm an instrumentalist. This is a Chinese instrument, it's called pipa, and today we're gonna bring you guys a audio-visual interactive improv show that we've been working on together.
Yes, we will talk more about the behind the scene and more introduction to each of our practice and our collaborative work afterwards.
It's not coincidence I brought you here to me. There's no coincidence won't mess me with me. If I can fall asleep, I wait for the morning. Let the sun cleanse me within. There's no
we performed earlier, this was the performance that we did at the opening reception of my solo exhibition at the Blanc Gallery the past Saturday. For this work, my solo exhibition's title was Becoming Other, and it is the show of my world building practices in mostly Unreal Engine and sometimes Blender, TouchDesigner, and Unity. That was showcased in different formats. For example, from more traditional hanging on the wall kind of art prints to the all sorts of different ways, such as a series of videos that come from the same world, and also projection. Okay, I can show you a few pictures. I'm extending my display so I can see it very well. So this was us last Saturday.
With our masks.
Yeah, the fluorescent masks are models printed from some of my other works. I've been doing work that involves motion capture, performance of my collaborators, and sound design as well. Mainly involving the themes of becoming other bodies, like transfigurations, and this relates to my idea of art as like the totality of art, including not just visual art and technology, but also music, stage performance, stage design, and dance and motion-based performances. So these are some of the works I showcased in this exhibition. This is a hologram with hybrid creatures morphing from human to animal and back to human again on a seamless loop. This was made with Houdini, and the texture was done by an AI model that we trained on satellite images. That was 3 years ago in 2022, before the majority of AI video softwares were so available. We did Runway, first generation of Runway, and we did the input was a lot of satellite images, and the output was a latent walk video of a highly color graded, highly saturated environmental, like landscape, Landsat satellite images. The idea was this kind of mimicry as we transform ourselves into other beings. And this work was showcased as a continuous sequence of transformations on 3 continuous holographic fans. And during the performance we had last Saturday at the opening reception of Becoming Other, at first I was debating whether I should do like a navigation in an Unreal scene, but then I was convinced that it doesn't have to be the scenography doesn't have to be very concrete. It can be more abstract, organic, like something that's alive, just like slime mode. And we too become the alternative characters inside the world, like some of the other works I did. And I think the connection between Runyu and I is that we both we're from China, and we both work with concepts and ideas related to our ancestral practices, such as the idea of masks and the hybridization between different creatures, animals, plants, and humans, this kind of boundaryless transformation across different species, and we take our inspiration from mythology and folklore from the past, and we implement new methodologies, new pipelines. For example, with Touch, with Unreal Engine, with this like motion capture by Vicon, and like Rococo and everything else. So this was the point that connected us, and we do want to join force and begin a series of explorative collaborations, mainly focused on stage production, on theatrical production, that synthesizes all elements of art together. And let me just go to our Instagram. Sorry, this is a bit hard for me to navigate because I can't see it on my computer screens. Is it big enough for you guys? Okay, so Runyu, would you talk about your music?
Oh yeah, I'm so glad to be here because I'm a musician, and my normal scene is like surrounded by musicians, and this is very new and exciting for me to like be here with all of you. And I'm a singer-songwriter, and I do a lot of pop songs. The 3 songs that I played with Pipa are originally made with vocals on it. I have top lines and everything, but for this show with Yiou, we decided to make it into an instrumental piece and more like just like freestyle sort of thing to fit what we believe about just being being otherworldly, and just be very, very free. And yeah. Follow me on Instagram, and you can find me on like Spotify and everything. So yeah, if you're interested in my music. And this is pipa. This is pipa. If you've never seen this before, it's a Chinese traditional instrument that I love to implement into my songs, which are like mostly English pop songs. So I really wanted to introduce my instrument to all of you because I think it's cool, and I hope you'll like it.
So Runyu and my recent showcases, the posters are up there. So my solo exhibition runs until March 14th. It is at the Blanc, which is 15 East 40th Street, right next to Bryan Park. And Runyu has a performance at South by Southwest coming up in 2 weeks in Austin. Friends from the East. So just in case you guys end up in Austin during South.
Yeah, catch me in Boston. No, Austin.
Okay, Runyu just revealed that she's actually
going to school in Boston.
Fun fact: there's a place like a small borough in the greater Boston area that's also called Austin, but spelled differently.
I should perform there. That's where I should be.
But this Austin means Austin, Texas. Any last words?
I'll save them for like when I'm 80, so I'm good now.
You mean whether this pipa is a
Yeah, because they were they were tracks to my own songs. They were pop tracks, and that's what I'm really trying to do, is to put this very old instrument into like more modern sounds, and I think it kind of works. And I also play a lot of like very traditional songs as well. I don't think they're as fun, so this is like what I'm doing now.
It's not a very complicated setup, actually. So the core of this is a geometry. Where is it? I can't see very clear from my mask. Okay, it's here. Yeah. So the core is like a point-based geometry that uses like a reorder noise for its position. Like this is the reorder noise, and I also implemented a feedback loop on it. So in the end, the noise looks like this. This is the noise. And yeah, it's actually pretty simple. I know a lot of people do a lot of complicated works. And for the colors, it's actually the several videos that are on show on my exhibition, and they are like just video clips, and most of them are made with Unreal Engine, and they incorporate motion capture performance of my like dancer collaborators, and in different clips, the humanoid avatar is trying to become and embody different elements of nature, such as a river or ice, things like that. Yeah, and I use those videos as the input of the colors, so when there isn't any audio input, the background or this whole scene will become more and more similar to my original video when there's no noise. But now actually it's driven by an audio, it's driven by the BGM, so I just put the BGM as the input instead of the mic, because while we are talking, I would like the scene to continue changing. And I think what makes it beautiful, it's the bloom. The bloom I used toward the end, and also another feedback. Yeah, so my inspiration was very much related to slime mold and mycorrhiza fungal network, and I think noise is a very good way to simulate those natural growth patterns. The velocity of the some particles, and because there's a feedback and a bloom added afterwards, it'll if the audio input isn't strong or pronounced enough, it'll gradually be blended into this like white-ish thing. But whenever there's a new sound, like some areas will show this kind of lightning streaks, which I think is really interesting.
everyone. Oh, thumbs down. Next up, we've got Matt Ross coming up to the stage. But we'll do a couple minutes of just quick setup.
Yes, I can tap my microphone. There is a little feedback, but I think it's kind of spooky. But we'll make it work.
Alright. I want to give a quick intro for Matt. So, actually, over the past couple of years, I had a really amazing opportunity to get to teach a touch designer class at Parsons. And there's actually special guests in the audience because that class was started from a student petition. Shout out to Isaac Sante over here for starting that. The university didn't think that there was going to be enough of a turnout, and then suddenly they had enough seats in the class to fill up 2 full sections. So suddenly we needed dual instructors for the course, and then reached out to us. So Matt came in. We actually got to co-teach the first TD course a number of years ago, and it was super fun. Fingers crossed. I hope so. I don't. I have no introduction. I just pop in. But yeah, Matt's been doing some really amazing work at Volvox, and we're so happy that Matt could pop in today and show a little bit of behind the scenes of some Volvox works and some process. So please give a huge round of applause to Matt.
Everyone, thanks for letting me be here and talk to y'all. This is a huge privilege, and the fact that there are this many people that want to get together and talk about touch designer and interested in creative tech and art is a really amazing thing. So what I want to talk about today is a little bit of what I do with my work at Worldbuilding Labs, but also just my approach to creative technology, touch designer, and maybe get a little existential perhaps, where you see how we're doing things, but we should have some fun and look at some projects along the way. So I want to talk a little bit about Volvox Labs. It's a new art studio that's been around for about 11 or 12 years, and kind of came out of the festival arts and DJing circuit. A lot of experiential marketing, live events, and architectural work. These days we do a lot of things kind of at that, all the good new media intersection stuff. So we have a content team of CG artists that work in Houdini and Unreal and some 4D, and they're making really beautiful things and pixels. And we have a digital fabrication team who work on CNC milling and hardware and 3D printing stuff and all that good stuff. And then I work on the creative tech team. So we use Touch Designer as our main programming and software platform. We do a lot of physical computing, tech integration, app programming. And what our tech director, Ben Forrest, likes to say is that we're the glue that kind of keeps all the teams together and kind of enables everything. So I'm just going to show our reel really quick and get a little bit of a sense of some work in the last couple of years. because it is really this combination of the mediums of technology, of production, and when I say production, that means things like digital fabrication, parametric design, the tools that we love with generative design, TouchDesigner, projection mapping, all these things that are kind of vacuous and vague, and we have specific touch points, like how much easier has it been to explain to people what my job is since the sphere has been a thing. So, that is the fun of being at the cutting edge and, doing things that don't necessarily have a good grounding. One of the projects that we did really recently that I love, and, a lot of our work ends up being experiential work. So, a brand will come to us and like this, for instance, we had the Saratoga water, this, fancy water bottle brand, and they said we want to do pavilion at Design Miami. And so we built this projection mapped rock, and I really like this big rock because it involved every department at Volvox. So the design of the rock was designed Houdini and done parametrically. So it's basically this form that has all these kind of ridges, and we started with this perfect cube and kind of deformed it and caused this chaos, and then that was milled with our robot, if we get some nice footage of that. And so our fabrication team was able to build the frame and attach all of the pieces. I'm not a fabricator, so I'm going to say things wrong. And attach all the pieces, and the tech team, came together to do the projection mapping, and it was basically everyone kind of came together in this really fun way. And that's what I really like about the work that we do, is it's very, very cross-disciplinary. And, people are on teams, like I'm on a creative technology team, but everyone kind of works across things, and no one is required to kind of stay in their lane in terms of what their specific project is and is. So I want to talk a little bit about how I got, about how I got there. I worked in the software field for a while. I worked at Major League Baseball on a team of 8 people who worked on the search bar. And so it was in really, really enterprise tech. And that wasn't super fulfilling, so I ended up going to a program called ITP. Anyone in the crowd, ITP? I know there's like 2. Well, yay! So I like to joke that ITP is like very, very sensitive technology place. So, I really got in touch with my sensitive side. I made this pillow that, I would scream my feelings into, and it was like a granular synthesizer. And then I made the synthesizer, and there's the plants, and you gently touch the plants, and I made some nice synth tones, and then I did some technology phone bad sort of stuff that is fun. We can talk about that at the bar. But I loved that program because of the people and the ability to explore and kind of find what different mediums you can do with technology. After that, and I graduated into the pandemic, which is a great time to get into the world of installations because there's tons of work out there, but there wasn't. And I think this is something I just wanted to talk about just a little bit because especially with my students, I try to explain, it rocks to be able to be a TouchDesigner developer, but it's a really, really tricky field to navigate. And I think there's a lot of people in this room that are doing the work to try and improve, how we can build those paths for people, and doing a lot of education and just building resources. But, just understanding how do you make a career out of it is really tricky. And that's something I struggled with. So I think from 6 months to a year after graduating from, new media school, which was supposed to be my way into being a TouchDesigner developer, I pretty much was just doing what I did before and was doing the web developer job. But slowly but surely, I was able to kind of work my way into some projects and was able to work out some really cool things. This bottom right was freelance with a great artist named Andy Cavatorta, who does some cool sculptures, and it was like a pinball machine where 4 people play, and you learn about the economy of Mexico. So people got all sorts of ideas out there. And I ended up getting recruited to Volvox by my good friend Gilad Dor, who will never let me live that down. I was like just doing nothing on a Tuesday. And for those of you who are freelance, my favorite thing about it is, you pick your own hours. So I can just chill at 2 p.m. and then I'll end up working until 2 a.m. But Gilad called me and he's like, hey, come, we need hands to do some soldering. And I was like, no, I'm so comfy. I got a blanket on, I made some herbal tea. He was like, dude, come. And I was like, okay, fine. So I ended up and I did, a week of soldering for Volvox, and that kind of led to about 6 months of freelancing for them. So this is a fun project where it was kind of this giant harp, had a ton of LEDs in it. This led to my first really big project with Volvox, which was this sort of immersive space-age batting cage called the Batting Lab. And this was a way to get kids to care about data analysis and data visualization. I think it was a really cool project. Did the kids care more about data viz at the end? I think so. And they did get better at baseball. There's a lot of machine learning in this thing. And it was, one of my first really, really large-scale installations. I had done freelance things here and there, but is a really interesting process to start from the beginning, from the design phase, go into a room that has nothing there and then end up with a giant sculpture. And I was just really lucky to get in at that specific time because I kind of came in hired just to build like a tiny kiosk app and just do some web development. And since I had some skills that I'd taught myself during grad school, like TouchDesigner and LEDs and all this stuff, I was able to kind of transition into, doing the lighting design, doing all the LED work, and a bunch more stuff. So I wanted to show this picture on the right, which is pretty much what the inside of my head looks like at all times. I also just love photos like this because I think it shows the messiness for me is the joy, and like that process is what I find to be the most fun. I like this other photo because at an installation they gave me a walkie-talkie, and that made me feel really important, even though no one ended up calling me on the walkie-talkie. So day to day at Volvox, I do end up doing a lot of things which run the gamut of creative tech, software development, TouchDesigner, setting up server racks, networks, projectors, doing mapping, a lot of like uncoiling cables, which I, got the nod in myself, so I have to deal with that. Building LED walls, trapping displays, doing a lot of prototyping, soldering, all this sort of stuff, and obviously, actually going and doing the installs. And then, we do work with a lot of freelancers and have hired some new juniors recently, so, getting people up to speed and getting started for new installations, figuring things out. I really like working here because for someone like me who is a generalist, it allows me to really, put my arms wide out across a lot of things. And it's a really good place to be able to, be constantly challenged and constantly be learning. But you do end up in this situation as a creative technologist where you're like, what's going on? And this can sometimes be me because being a generalist is great on paper, and in theory, because that's what on paper means, but then you end up in this place where I'm like, how do I do this thing? What am I going to do? And it can be really, really overwhelming. And one of the things I wanted to do is talk about how do you balance a skill set which requires you to know everything. And one of the easy things I'll say is, is finding collaborators. Look to your left, look to your right. Someone probably knows something that you don't know how to do. And even if you are really early on, or even if you're coming from a non-technical background, a TouchDesigner, if you're really good at Photoshop or making a chili con carne or, electronics, like there is always going to be something that you can collaborate with someone on, because what we do is inherently cross-disciplinary. And I think, finding the little nooks of that and understanding that maybe there's something you want to be better at, whether it be programming or shaders or whatever, but there are people out there that are going to want to work with you to accomplish something larger. All these things, I've learned a lot, working at Volvox Labs, because my background was as a, deep enterprise backend engineer. So, I knew a lot about doing stuff on Amazon Web Services, but I did not know a ton about LED processors. But that is part of the joy, I think, of this field, is learning all there is to know to kind of accomplish your goal. It's a very strange, place to be, where there are things that I love, from a technology standpoint, which are like, I want to learn about that just for the joy of it. The course I teach at the new school is, generative and modular design within TouchDesigner. Like, I'm really curious about, modular type and flexible visual systems and how we integrate that and into a real-time environment. And there's other things where I'm like, the joy is like learning this so I can get my task accomplished. And I think everyone here is going to have that own little thing that keeps you going. And there's going to be that one thing where I'm like, I'm really excited about X, but I'm going to learn Y so I can get my task done. And I think finding joy in learning enough to get that task done, I think, is a very important thing to kind of like become comfortable with. And it's also a tricky thing to not get overwhelmed by. And I think just trying to, be okay in that chaos and be okay with struggling is a thing that's way easier said than done. That's also why I love teaching, is because I can, say things that are way easier said than done, and I can just be like, oh yeah, just don't worry about it. Just the failure is part of the process. But like, one of my good friends that I think is watching this, he teaches a class called Collective Joy at NYU, and they were saying, I'm not teaching Collective Joy because I've accomplished Collective Joy. Like, I'm teaching this class because it's something to aspire to. It's something that we can all work towards together. And I think that really stuck with me. And so I think part of creative tech and this field that I really like is the challenge that there are so many things to know. And there is always going to be something that I don't know, but that process of getting there is going to be something that can be really fun. Here are my rules. I don't know why it's rules here. This is more of a rant. I made this up last night. You're only as good as your ability to communicate with your team and be flexible with them. And creative technology can mean being creative in how you solve your problems, not necessarily how you actually build something. You have to let go of your ego, because you're not going to know everything. That's what your collaborators are for. But sometimes you're never going to find the collaborator you need. And in that case, you have to evaluate what the minimum, the tiniest bit of knowledge that you need to accomplish your needs are going to be. And saying yes to things is your best friend. So I wanted to talk about some projects where these things are actually being actualized. And I wanted to show the team, this is actually missing a couple people, but I just wanted to show this picture to say that I'm going to talk about these projects, but with a creative studio like this, it's really hard to nail down individual contributions, because even something like with a kinetic sculpture, there are so many people that touch every part of it. And for me, like, even if I am sitting there doing something, wiring something up or assembling some wooden box, there have been 4 other people on my team that I'm sitting across to that have had hands in that process. And it just makes it really, really interesting when, the way that you set up your TouchDesigner network is going to affect how you install things on site. So I wanted to talk about this project, which I really love, which is was for Prada, and it is this series of columns that emit these scent-filled bubbles. So they came to us with the idea where they wanted to, have these bubbles because they were launching 3 new scents. So there are 3 of these specific columns, and each one emitted its own different scent. And according to Greg, when he started building TouchDesigner, he did not think about the use case of TouchDesigner to control bubbles. So I think that is a really fun thing. I think I have to give a huge shout out to our director of physical design, Zia Zhang, who really did a brunt of the work in making this possible. We were lucky enough to go into an R&D phase where we just spent some time actually developing things. But she's very fearless in that she just kind of takes any challenge as it comes, and something like, hey, I need to build an automated system to make bubbles. She's unfazed by the fear of doing something so complicated. So this is really when we were still in the mad scientist phase of things, but this was kind of our prototype, which was built over 2 weeks, to say that, okay, this is possible. We can build an installation that can make scent-filled bubbles. So a lot of the challenge was, taking this process of, blowing a bubble and figuring out how do we automate that. And so it was basically this 3D printed process where, we replicated the process of you dipping a little spoon into the bubble juice and blowing it. This was sort of the control unit, which was an Arduino, a relay, and some other stuff which had to be waterproof because it was stuck in these giant barrels full of fog. And thankfully, it was really waterproofed. Shout out to Bryce, who I know works at Chem Creative. He did a really good job of waterproofing them. To talk about some of the TouchDesigner stuff, the whole system was basically choreographed by TouchDesigner. And one of the really interesting things to think about is, when we're building visuals in Touch, sometimes it can be simple where everything is kind of contained within your network. But when you're working with a bunch of different discrete pieces of hardware, it can make things a lot more challenging because I have a lot of things that need to be synchronized. How do I take all of these things like a fan, a servo, a DMX fog machine, like X, Y, and Z, and how do I take all these things and abstract them in a way where it all kind of leads back to a start and a stop button? There are like these little things you learn along the way, like, everything that is a reference should always be referencing one specific source of truth. You have one constant or one custom parameter on your extension. That is who everyone is getting their idea of who I am and what I should be doing at any one time. And order of operations, there's a whole thing, like sort of dance about how the fog fills these chambers and when the servos need to move in a specific way. And TouchDesigner is really good at animating that out, and we animated with a animation comp. Sometimes all you really need is a specific curve or a specific on-off state that happens at certain times. So I really love the animation comp, and I used to be like a hater for some reason, but earlier this year it kind of just clicked for me, and now I basically use it for everything. And then, one source of truth. On the Arduino side, something that I try to strive for is that everything inside the Arduino is as dumb as possible, where all the Arduino is doing is basically communicating with whatever the specific hardware it's interfacing with is. Everything business logic or complexity is happening in TouchDesigner because it's a lot easier to program something in Touch than it is to do it when you're working with, I think there were 6 Arduinos in this project. So, if one of them breaks, you want to be able to just reach in your bag, grab your extra and swap it in without any thought about how you need to configure it or anything. So I'm a huge, huge proponent of using replicators also. I really love this idea that, you're building modular systems and you can take the same block of code and kind of reuse it over and over and over again. I wanted to talk also about a big project that we worked on over the years. There's this DJ named Nicole Mudaber that we have been doing visuals for a while. And the last 2 years, we've gotten to do some really cool projects with her. I got to work on this project that was at the Brooklyn Mirage last summer. So for this project, we did a whole suite of custom content. This was a 2.5-hour show, and We built the whole media playback system. We built a TouchDesigner generative graphic system. And then there was a ton of just pre-rendered Houdini and Houdini. We also started getting into Comfy UI. We have a CG developer named Prado who does some of the most amazing things with Comfy UI that I've ever seen. I'm also not a huge fan of AI graphics. Sorry, Lyle. So like to see some of the things that Prado's able to get out and to see it rendered at such scale and such quality, it kind of put me in the other direction. Anyway, this is really fun, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the other version of this we did, which was at a venue that does not exist anymore called Arts District, which is a fully projection mapped room that used to be in Greenpoint. So you can get a little bit of a taste of it. So this was an interesting project because not only were we doing this whole thing of projection mapping and custom content and CG development and real-time control, but this was a 9-hour VJ set. So we had to develop all the content, build this whole storyboard from scratch, and we ended up doing a couple of music videos, but it was also happening over the course of 9 hours. So, we have a couple of challenges we were doing, which is how do you build a system that's dealing with these humongous videos, because it's a huge space. So, I forget what the resolution was. It definitely at least 8K, that needs to be mapped out in all these weird different ways. But you also need to do your show. Like, you need to be able to VJ, you need to have fun, keep people interested, and do the thing that actually makes it an interesting show. How do you build enough content that keeps 9 hours of content interesting? That was pretty tough. How do you balance the pipelines of pre-rendered assets and generative assets? And then how do you design a system for performance that, not only me as a technologist can work? Because as a lot of you probably know, you build a TouchDesigner network, maybe you're not commenting anything, maybe, you're just, it's 2 a.m., you're like, I finally got to work. And only you know how to make this thing work. You can open it up and press the exact right combination of nodes to make something work, and that's great. But there's going to be a lot of times where someone else needs to get in there. And so I was working with 2 other VJs who are really, really talented VJs, but I needed to build a performance system for them and for myself. So we basically built this whole story from scratch, where is this kind of theme of the goddess, and I just want to get to some of the technical stuff. So we did a whole pipeline of pre-rendered assets and live things. Unreal, we didn't do live. It was mainly for world building. We have a lot of generative patches that our technologist Javier Cruz, who is the longest running Volvox employee of 10 years, built a lot of the generative graphics for this. We hired a couple of people to build some custom 3D characters that were able to move in the space. And then I did a lot of stuff with building a system in both TouchDesigner and Pixera. And Pixera is for those of you who are familiar, it's a media server, but I think it is a very user-friendly one. So it was a really nice platform to use for something this complicated. So we basically had this raster that was given to us by the venue, and then we were able to, our whole 3D team rendered everything out in this way, where they knew that if I'm going to, put a piece of content over here, it's going to end up on this screen. And then one of my main challenges was, building a dynamic layout system where they want to be able to take pieces of content and, duplicate it across, multiple parts of the screen, or, do a takeover. So instead of, one piece of content just being there, it's going to be duplicated the whole way across. And I think that's when you kind of explore what things are good for TouchDesigner and what things aren't. TouchDesigner was super helpful for doing, generative graphics, audio reactivity. You don't want to do like an audio reactivity thing in a media server, but Touch has so much out of the box. Another huge thing is that it's 3 a.m. and we're running out of content. We're able to open up TouchDesigner and start programming new content. So everyone here, obviously MIDI controls are great, but one thing I thought this audience would find interesting is the limitations of MIDI controllers. And you want to be able to experiment and manipulate your content, but there is a reality where you twist every knob you have and everything starts to look like mush, or you're just like, wait, how do I get out of this? Like, what did I do? And what happens if you hit the wrong button at the wrong time? Like, did you have you have like a state system where you're jumping to a queue and then like, oh, I can't get out of this. And it's really, really important to break things ahead of time. And that is one of like my main rules for anything that I'm building that someone else is going to use, is that I'm going to try and break it in as many ways as possible, because whoever you're giving it to is going to do that. And that's not a fault on them. That is just building software, and I think a really important thing to spend your time on. And then we got some Ableton integration. Okay, I am running out of time, so I just wanted to show this really quickly. This is another kinetic installation we did, which was for a car brand. They were launching a new car, which had a lot of features around lighting, so we were able to parlay that into a installation about the color wheel. So it's basically what I call, and this is really corny, but I call it a kinetic Kusama, because like you are stepping into a Kusama infinity mirror room, but there are motors on all of these mirrors. So you're kind of getting these really nice light reflections and things going all around, and it's this very nice experience to be in there. We have a sensor in the top of the installation, so based on where you walk in this color wheel, it will activate these different color washes and do this stuff. This now lives at our studio because this was for an event, and so now we just took all the pieces from this and built it really, really big. This was a really fun project to do because it is a really interesting idea of the play between hardware, software, and people. This is the type of thing where the way that I'm writing my TouchDesigner patch and the constraints of what hardware that I'm using is affecting the design. It's affecting how our fabricators are going to get things in there. It's going to affect how the hands we have on site are going to run things. And you have this interplay between you are going to design stuff ahead of time, obviously for a structure like this, but there is a physical reality to how you can do things in TouchDesigner and how that will affect things in real life. Here's some in progress photos. This was, this is when I talk about prototyping, you want to get to the point where you can test all of the individual things of your project as quickly as possible. So if we look at, the whole thing, you have this is kind of like a modular design where you have replicated 12 different columns of mirrors. So, if I can make something work on one column, I can probably get it to work on 12. If I have, there's 9 strips of LED. If I can get that to work on one, I can probably replicate that again. So for us, getting to that point where we can get something off the screen, see it in person, for technical reasons, but also obviously aesthetics. You need to qualify that what you're making is actually going to look good and is actually going to be an experience that you want to make, because we do use previs a lot of the time and do things in 3D. But for things like this, it's really hard to know how you're going to feel standing in front of a structure until you're actually there and at scale, at the size of yourself, seeing how this works and looks. We use these servo cylinders, which are really great. They work the same way as one of those 2 tiny blue ones that you might get out of a Arduino kit. And let me just wrap up with this. Understanding with something like this, thinking about how do you define a trigger, how do you think about how you're going to interface with all these external things, and then you're building a show. You're building all these different curves and animations. It's not like a switch in TouchDesigner where I can just go from 0 to 1 to 2. If I want to go from 0 to 1, there are like 6 different other things that need to happen. If I want to go to the next scene, I need to make sure all the mirrors are in the right place, all the lights in the right place, all these specific things, and it's kind of tricky to make sure that your show understands who I am and what I'm doing at any specific time. We use a system where we basically animate the motors in tops. So you can kind of see that this is an animation of the mirrors all going from left to right. And it works really well because the motors, you just give a value of 0 to 255, and you can map the white and black value of the motors to white to black. So a lot of the animations are built in animation comp, kind of just taking different ramps and just building them together, and you're able to get some really fun stuff. Also, a huge fan of the replicator. So, I built a system where you can, modularize how many mirrors that you have. So, going from that wide layout that we had to now the tall layout that we have at home is pretty simple. I want to thank everyone for the opportunity to present, and let me rant at you. And please reach out. Email me, hit me up on Instagram. It's been a pleasure. Thank you all so much.
Questions?
Oh, it's right there.
Can you repeat the question?
The question was for something like a 9-hour VJ set. Sorry, I just want to make sure it's not. Okay. Something like a 9-hour VJ set. How 4 hours in you make sure that you're not like running out of content. So a lot of what we tried to do was build our performance system with that idea in mind, where think about and do things in a layered mode. So we have there's basically 3 things that you can think about within our VJ system, where you have pre-rendered content, stuff we're doing in After Effects or Houdini. We have stuff in TouchDesigner that we're making on the fly, like this is a generative graphic that is audio reactive, and then you also have effects, and that is sort of your toolkit to build everything together. Okay, so this is a good example right here. So this is an example of using 2 things at the same time, where we have a 3D, it's under these lines is an Unreal scene, and then we're using an audio reactive layer in TouchDesigner to composite it out. So we have, these colors that are really vibrant and are kind of in this 3D world, but then we're using a really traditional technique of compositing, and we're making these kind of weird geometric patterns in TouchDesigner, and then on top of that we can have different effects that will change the state or do any number of things. So I think that's the trick to that, is like figuring out how you can build like an instrument for yourself and like a way to really perform what you're seeing, what you're feeling, and make something that can be really flexible in the way that you're working with it. It can be as simple as, the increase feedback amount, increase amount of cool twirl. A lot of these things end up being macros, where you have one effect, especially for a lot of what I did for this this performance was build a lot of macros, and that was like my big learning from the session we did last year, where I'm like, if I'm not the one in front of the MIDI controller, I need to make sure that whatever is going to be applied is not going to like make things look bad and turn to mush. So a lot of what I was doing was building different combinations of effects that work together. And so, what you're actually doing in the MIDI controller is controlling the layers. Is something being composited? What type of composite? Is it an over? Is it a multiply? Is it subtract? And then am I applying like a shader or like a cool displace on top of that after? So that's when I kind of say, it's like an instrument, is because, as the VJ, you are, controlling, using your instincts of what you're seeing and hearing to affect what you're doing. And I'm the VJ, but sometimes, but also like as a technologist, I need to make sure that if I hit the wrong button, that's not going to close the show out. So it's kind of like a balance of, getting those things right together. Oh yeah. That was about I think that was about a 2-month turnaround. So we had a team of, I think, 4 to 5 CG developers who were working in Houdini, Unreal, Maya. So, there's one person who she actually works full time now. Her name's Wang, and she did a lot of stuff with mocap. So she found the mocap data online and then built all the dances and then brought that onto Unreal and like did all the different pipeline where we had another artist named Chatran. He was building all the world. He was kind of like an environment artist. So he was building all these Unreal worlds that we would take the characters and put them into. And sort of, it is in some ways there is a like traditional CG house feel to it, but it's just like a lot more flexible and a lot more like lines cross a little bit more.
Maybe one more. Just for time.
Really.
Yeah, I was gonna also for like the video set, like so that same DJ did 2 super different projection setups, right? Like one was kind of like one wide and then that other venue where it's like super regular. So I guess like I don't know if you got like booked for like both the gigs like in one project or whatever, but yeah, like how did you make sense of basically going to like a way more like kind of like the regular stuff? Think of the pre-rendered stuff because I guess with generative you can kind of like go across the wall with whatever shape it is. You have like pre-rendered things, like how do you make like how does it make sense?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I think we do pretty well is we have a pretty organized archive of all our projects. So, it was not booked together. It was a year apart. So when the Brooklyn Mirage project came up, it was kind of like, all right, let's open the After Effects files or let's open the Houdini files and we're going to have to everything had to be re-rendered. Things that didn't fit in perfectly onto the raster. We used, I forget the exact name of it, but, there's a blur effect, where you have the 16:8 in the middle and then you kind of like replicate that out. And so there's a lot of animation tricks that you can use, but that is why it's really important to keep an archive of your own work, whether it be in TouchDesigner or any program, because you never know when you're going to need to come back to what you have been working on previously. Yeah.
I think I'm going to cut off the questions for there. But yeah, thank you, Matt. Everyone give a big hand for... ridiculously impressive work by Matt and Volvox for sure. Thank you. So there's a couple like little things that I'm gonna facilitate, actions. We haven't taken a group photo ever.
Oh.
So we're gonna try to take that now, but right before we do that, if I could ask people to kind of like team effort, stack some chairs against that wall. I'm gonna help out, but maybe if you wanna help me. And then we're gonna like group in front of the screen here, look that way, camera will be over there. We'll take a big group photo and then we have an AV performance after that to close out the night. Thank you.
twisted moonlight, redder than bone. I play them like my own. Oh, I'm blowing smoke in the eyes, here from my throne. Oh, I'm throwing stones from great heights. White flags don't show in this kingdom that I roam. Falling by the road, don't forget me. Falling by the road, in this kingdom that I roam. Falling by the road, don't forget me. For I am inside, in this kingdom that I roam. I'm blowing smoke in the night.
Ooh, that's a good way to keep attention. You can hear me?
In this kingdom that I roam.
Just a little reminder, it's not over. We've got one more super cool thing.
I can feel you in the first minutes. I couldn't breathe when I'm wrapping minutes. Ooh, we're open. After the sun has already risen, that's my world forgotten. I can feel you in the first minutes. I couldn't breathe when I'm wrapping minutes. Ooh, we're open. After the sun has already risen, that's my world forgotten. I can feel you in the first minutes. I couldn't breathe when I'm wrapping minutes. Ooh, we're open. After the sun has already risen, that's my world forgotten. I can feel you in the first minutes. I couldn't breathe when I'm wrapping minutes. Ooh, we're open. After the sun has already risen, that's my world forgotten. I can feel you in the first minutes. I couldn't breathe when I'm wrapping minutes. Ooh,
Do you need a dongle still?
filter. Got in the negative, posted by empty men. All day swimming under the palm trees. Look how they gracefully sway. Some kind of gin drink, some kind of jewelry, some kind of fancy machine. Why is it always bright, quarreling, filtering through the laser? I
Hello. And maybe not. And check. Oh. And yeah. And that one works. It works well. That is all. Thank you guys for coming out. This has been DATLAB Meetup 6. We're going to do another one next month and probably one April, hopefully a lot more. But yeah, thank you, Nick. SMOMID? SMOMID. All right, I switch around those two vowels there. But yeah, we're going to wrap up. But yeah, thank you guys for coming out.